Many residents flock to the mainland to spend their long weekend. President Xi Jinping attends a ceremony on Martyrs' Day. And the threat of a U.S. federal government shutdown inches closer. Hello and welcome to TVB News. The National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival holidays have begun on the mainland. Although the Hong Kong government encouraged local residents to spend their leisure time at home, around 330,000 people have already traveled up north via land routes as of 4 this afternoon. An estimated 500,000 Hong Kongers are expected to travel to the mainland today. Timothy Lee tells us more.
At the Luohu port this morning, many Hong Kongers were heading north to ShenZhen. Because of the crowds, there were long queues. Mainland authorities earlier relaxed requirements on health declarations, and today, travelers could walk across the border without showing their black health code. The Immigration Department expects the number of visitors heading to the mainland by land will reach a peak today, at nearly 500,000. This woman said she came to the mainland to visit a beauty salon to get a manicure. She said barbers in ShenZhen are more patient. This man noted he was excited to seek out restaurants and shopping malls. He added things are cheaper in ShenZhen. Some shopping malls that opened earlier this month featured special discounts targeting tourists from Hong Kong. Despite the SAR government's efforts to revive tourism, such as the Hong Kong Night Vibes campaign, many people said they found ShenZhen more alluring. This Hong Kong tourist said many shops in the SAR simply closed too early, unlike ShenZhen. Besides the Luohu port, the Shenzhen Bay port and Lok Man Chau spur line also saw large crowds of visitors today. The Immigration Department said they will open more counters and passages to smoothen the departure process. Meanwhile, in Macau, visitor numbers reached above 80,000 today, including many from Hong Kong. To accommodate upcoming National Day celebrations, the enclave's transport authorities worked with local bus companies to increase services to facilitate tourists. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
3 local ad hoc night markets by the seaside remain open for business. But some shop owners said they are not expecting business to be as good as before because many people are choosing to spend their money on the mainland. At the Saiwan Belcher Bay Promenade Marketplace, only a few shops were open at about 4 p.m. The same scene could be seen at the Kwun Tong Seaside Marketplace. Some shopkeepers said business was better last night when families gathered around the promenade to spend the evening. But some think many residents would prefer to travel up north or abroad owing to the 3-day holiday. Meanwhile, the market at Wan Chai fared better, seeing an increase of visitors starting last night. The government estimates there would be more than 700 tour groups from the mainland visiting Hong Kong during the Golden Week holiday. The administration said it will step up promotion efforts to woo more tourists. The second day into the mainland's National Day Golden Week, the clock tower in Tsim Sha Tsui thronging with tour groups. More independent holidaymakers around the Central Pier. They include Miss Zhou from Shanghai. Miss Zhou and her family are among the day trippers undertaking the so-called SWAT team travel mode. That's referring to mainland tourist sightseeing style to visit as many destinations and landmarks as possible within a limited time and often on a minimum budget. Another SWAT team, tourists from Dongguan who wanted to have a ride on the Ferris wheel before finding it had not yet opened, so they could only take pictures on the ground. She said Hong Kong hotels are too expensive and chose to stay overnight in a ShenZhen hotel instead. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Kevin Yeung said Hong Kong expects to welcome upwards of 700 tour groups from the mainland. He said authorities will pay special attention to To Kwa Wan among other tourist destinations, which previously saw budget tour groups overcrowd neighborhoods. Patrols will be stepped up to around some 70 shops, tourist spots and eateries catering to mainland tour groups. Apart from pinning hopes on the city's Night Vibes campaign, Yeung said the tourism board shared 5 recommended itineraries for in-depth cultural exploration in Hong Kong on mainland social media platform Xiaohongshu in a bid to entice more travelers. The flag-raising ceremony is to be held at Golden Bohemia Square tomorrow as part of the National Day celebrations. Police have stepped up security around the venue with more officers deployed. Following the flag-raising event, a reception will be held at the Convention and Exhibition Center. To facilitate the nighttime fireworks display at Victoria Harbour, special traffic and transport arrangements in nearby areas will be in place starting 7 p.m. tomorrow. Meanwhile, children using Octopus cards can enjoy free MTR rides along most lines, as well as KNB and Longwind bus journeys for most of their daytime routes. Free rides for adults too, taking trams, the light rail and MTR buses running in the Northwest New Territories. And today marks the country's 10th Martyrs' Day, a day ahead of the National Day. President Xi Jinping, alongside various state leaders, attended a ceremony remembering the fallen national heroes. The ceremony was held at Tiananmen Square in Beijing Saturday morning. In attendance were President Xi Jinping, Vice President Han Zheng, and other state leaders, including Li Qiang and Zhao Leji. After the national anthem, a minute of silence was observed, honoring martyrs who sacrificed their lives for the country's independence and prosperity. Also paying tribute for students. 9 flower baskets then presented to the monument to the People's Heroes, which commemorates fallen national heroes. She was seen straightening the ribbons on the baskets before leading other senior officials in a walk around the monument, which was adorned with 8 carvings depicting episodes in Chinese history of revolutions since the First Opium War between 1840 and 1842. Veterans, family members of martyrs, as well as representatives from different walks of life also paid tribute in the ceremony. The Martyrs' Day falls on September 30th on the eve of the National Day, designated by the National People's Congress in 2014. It is one of China's 3 annual national memorial days, the others being Victory Day of the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression on September 3rd and National Memorial Day for Nanjing Massacre victims on December 13th. 2 male suspects linked to the JPEG's cryptocurrency fraud scandal were deported by Macau authorities. They were subsequently arrested by Hong Kong police and were brought to the city for further investigation on suspicion of fraud. The 2 suspects, surnamed Ho and Lo, claimed to be an employee at a currency exchange and a network engineer, respectively. They could be seen being taken away by authorities at the Hong Kong-Macau ferry terminal. Authorities seized over $6.5 million worth of cash and casino chips and froze over $8 million in casino account funds. The men are suspected of laundering money via their casino accounts. Overseas, the U.S. is on the brink of a federal government shutdown after hard-right Republicans in Congress rejected a long-shot effort to keep offices open. Come midnight on Saturday, with no deal in place, federal government workers will face furloughs and more than 2 million military troops will work without pay. This report from NBC News.
Tonight, the federal government on the brink of shutdown.
The bill is not passed.
21 House Republicans joining with Democrats to defeat Speaker McCarthy's latest stopgap plan to keep the government open while slashing spending.
Look up the word dysfunction in the dictionary and you'll see United States Congress drawn to 1/43rd scale.
A handful of hardline conservatives demanding even more spending cuts.
The American people get screwed with more debt and more spending that they do not want.
Sparking Republican anger with just 1 day left to pass a spending bill and avoid a midnight shutdown Saturday.
They killed the most conservative position we could take and then called themselves the real conservatives, which is like, make that make sense. You can't make it make sense.
The speaker looking to shift blame if 3.5 million federal workers are forced to forego paychecks, though most will receive back pay when a shutdown ends.
Mr. Speaker, what do you say to federal workers who are worried about their paychecks? That this is a political gamble. They're worried about their
question. So I'm saying the Republicans in here are trying to keep the government open. It sounds like you think the Democrats are going to shut it down. I don't think government should shut down.
As President Biden warned of the impact on 2 million military families who will serve without pay.
We can't be playing politics while our troops stand in the breach. It's an absolute dereliction of duty.
Families like Jessica Manfries. Her husband serves in the Coast Guard. Her message for lawmakers.
If you believe in this country, if you believe in the people that are willing to lay their lives down to defend it, then show us. Work together.
The United Auto Workers Union expanded strikes against Detroit automakers on Friday, ordering 7,000 more workers to walk off the job in Illinois and Michigan to put more pressure on the companies to improve their pay offers. Nasir Karim with more.
It's starting to get personal in the war between the Union of Auto Workers, or UAW, and America's biggest car makers. UAW President Shawn Fain attacked the combined income of US $50 million for Ford CEO Jim Farley and General Motors chief Mary Barra, with Farley hitting back by accusing Fain of holding any potential deal hostage over future electric vehicle battery plants. Blaming no meaningful progress in talks, Fain ordered another 7,000 workers at assembly plants in Chicago, Illinois and Lansing, Michigan to walk off their jobs. It brings to 25,000 or 17% of the 146,000 auto industry workers in the United States who are striking. At the core of the issue is the UAW's demand for 40% pay rises over 4 years, while the car companies offer 20%.
Why today? Because Shawn Fain said so today. But I guess we're not getting what we want. And so I guess he got us out here to prove that we mean business. We want a fair contract.
The strike started on September 15th, initially targeting one assembly plant each from the three big automakers, Ford, GM and Stellantis. It escalated on September 22nd when workers walked off the job at GM and Stellantis distribution facilities in 20 states nationwide.
Sadly, despite our willingness to bargain, Ford and GM have refused to make meaningful progress at the table. That's why at noon Eastern Time today, we will expand our strike to these two companies. To be clear, negotiations haven't broke down. We're still talking with all three companies.
The union insists that labor expenses are only 4 to 5% of the cost of a vehicle, while the companies continue to make billions of dollars in profit. Analysts say if the UAW demands are met, it would add $3,000 to $5,000 to the cost of an average electric car. The companies fear the cars would become more expensive than Tesla electric vehicles, as well as products from non-union foreign manufacturers. Nazvi Karim, TVB News.
Still ahead. Big flooding in the Big Apple as New York is troubled by heavy rain. Russia marks the first anniversary of annexing 4 regions from Ukraine. And a rescue mission after a ship caught fire in Italy. Welcome back. A state of emergency was declared in New York after a rush-hour rainstorm swamped the Big Apple, flooding streets and bringing traffic to a standstill. Tracy Furness has more.
Torrential downpours after a week of mostly steady rainfall triggered flash flooding in New York City on Friday. Up to 13 centimeters of rain fell in some areas overnight, but by midday more than 20 centimeters had inundated the city, with 6 centimeters falling in just 1 hour.
This is not an ordinary rainfall. This is historic. We are on track to possibly create a new record of 10 inches of rain falling in literally 24 hours. The last time we even had this number was in 1955, and that was over a 2-day period.
Traffic was virtually at a standstill as commuters battled to get where they were going. And rainwater was even seeping through to the subway stations and onto the tracks. Trains on virtually every subway line and commuter train station were at least partly suspended, rerouted or running with delays.
There's nothing on the board that shows anything. They say the trains are not coming in or they're not able to get in. Well, I guess it's just what it is. There's nothing you could do about it.
Apartments too were letting in the rainwater. Flights into LaGuardia were briefly halted Friday morning. Flooding also forced the closure of one of the airport's 3 terminals. The deluge came less than 3 months after a storm caused deadly floods in New York's Hudson Valley and left Vermont's capital submerged. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
There was a change of guard at the top of the U.S. military. Mark Milley left the top job after 4 years as the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. U.S. President Joe Biden thanked Milley before welcoming in his successor, General Charles Q. Brown. Tracy Furness again.
Outgoing U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, received a clap-out Thursday as he left the Pentagon for the final time ahead of his retirement. Milley assumed the chairman role in 2019 during Donald Trump's presidency. He had served in Iraq, Afghanistan before becoming the Army's top officer in 2015.
And Mr. President, thank you for your unwavering leadership, guiding our great nation and the trust you placed in me.
Milley hands over command to Air Force Chief General Charles Q. Brown, who will be only the second black officer to become chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff after Colin Powell 2 decades ago.
And our military is going to keep growing stronger, with General C.Q. Brown, Charles Q. Brown, Jr., as our 24th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Congratulations, old buddy.
With each leadership opportunity I've had during my career, I've been honored, blessed, and focused on the task ahead. Today is no exception.
Biden also paid tribute to the longest-serving female U.S. senator and the oldest sitting senator, Dianne Feinstein, who died on Friday, aged 90.
She was a historic figure, trailblazer for women, and a great friend. Dianne made her mark on everything from national security to the environment, to gun safety, to protecting civil liberties. The country's going to miss her dearly.
Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday marked the first anniversary of Russia annexing 4 regions in Ukraine's east. Putin also said criminals who died during the invasion of Ukraine redeemed themselves. Nasir Karim has more.
Despite objections from Ukraine and other countries, for Russian President Vladimir Putin, the 4 regions in Ukraine's east captured last year are part of Russia. In a recorded address, Putin on Friday marked the first anniversary of Russia laying claim to 4 annexed eastern regions of Donetsk, Lugansk, Kherson and Zaporizhia. Putin said the 4 regions came to the truly popular decision together in referendums in September 2022, which were in full compliance with international norms, though they are not recognized by the US and the European Union. On the same day, Putin met military personnel who had just returned from fighting in Ukraine in the Kremlin. The Russian president said the soldiers, one joining the conversation from a hospital by video link, had distinguished themselves with courage and heroism. He added that convicted criminals who joined the fighting and died in combat had redeemed themselves for the motherland. Meanwhile, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg said he hopes Poland can continue to support Ukraine with military aid. Relations between the 2 countries have soured after Poland's decision to extend a ban on Ukrainian grain imports, as well as halt weapon supplies.
I'm just expecting and confident that Ukraine and Poland will find a way to address those issues without that impacting in a negative way the military support to Ukraine.
On the battlefront, both Russia and Ukraine claim to have taken new military actions against each other. Russia says it attacked a Ukrainian ammunition depot and destroyed several targets, including fighter jets. Ukraine claimed to have battled Russian troops in Melitopol and Bakhmut. Meanwhile, Ukraine hosted an international defense industry conference as part of a government effort to ramp up weapons production within the country to repel Russia.
And that's the news. Thank you for watching.